really achieving the goals and targets, because mostly we consider that cities are the engine of growth and development. But if the engine itself is faulty, then it doesn't deliver the intended benefits, or it doesn't yield that kind of benefits which it can do. So here are the challenges and the opportunities that we are going to uh, mm, discuss and deliberate, and then reach to a conclusion or to a consensus that what is the way forward for the South and Southwest Asia Sub-Regional Forum to deliver collectively. So this is the main objective of this event today and this panel discussion. So I very much welcome all of you, Dr. Kala, and then Miss Anam Shahid, and Zishan, Sikandar Zishan, and Dr. Paras, and online Kurt Gagrian, um, Garrigan, Chief Sustainable Urban Development Unit, Barrister Arsalan Islam Sheikh, Mayor of Sakha, and Shaji Khalid, Senior Associate, and Dr. Paras. It's a great pleasure to talk to you and find collectively some way forward that can lead us to addressing our hardcore challenges and problems that we are facing. So with this introductory remark, I will like to invite Kurt Garrigan, Chief Sustainable Urban Development Unit and Environment Development Division, UNSCAP, to kindly take the floor and uh, brief us about the scenario that we have at the moment in the South and Southwest Asia. Over to you, Kurt.
Thank you, Javed, and thank you very much for the kind introduction, and apologies for not being with you in person. On behalf of ESCAP, I would like to share a brief presentation to maybe set some context for the discussion and further deliberations in this particular session. I see that the presentation is coming up. If it could be in full, okay, there it goes. So essentially, if we can go to the next slide, I think all of us know about many of the urbanization trends prevalent in the South and Southwest Asia region. It is recently seeing some slower yet still significant urbanization. It is home to roughly 14% of the world's urban population, and you see in the graph the urban population and its relative growth by country. So the growth itself has been pretty stable, but the urbanization rates range between 3 and 5% for most of the countries in the region, and that is what we project going forward towards 2030 continuing. One of the key characteristics of the urbanization in South and Southwest Asia is that the increase is resulting in actually more informal settlements and not adequate housing. So that remains one of the challenges or consequences, implications from urbanization in this particular subregion. Next slide. In ESCAP's overall analysis of the SDGs, and in particular here on SDG 11, What you see here is some uneven progress, and this is at the indicator level where we have some data to assess. So the midpoint line of 2024, where you see most of these indicators should have been or should be, if they were to be on target for 2030, are falling well behind. So there is some progress on national DRR strategies, some progress, but significantly behind on urban particulate matter, air pollution being one of the significant challenges in urban areas across the region. And then well behind on deaths and missing from disasters in 11.5. What you see in the red are those that are actually regressing since 2015 and where there needs to be significant attention. While there are national DRR strategies and some progress, there is actually regression on the proportion of local governments that are implementing local disaster risk reduction strategies. And we're also seeing, as a result, significant damage under the same category, really, of damage to critical infrastructure or service disruptions. And most significantly, in terms of regression, economic losses and affected infrastructure from those respective disasters. So a lot, this would lead to some attention on building resilience at the urban and community level. So next slide, please. So here are some of what we consider the persistent urbanization challenges. We continue to see rapid and unplanned growth, which is straining infrastructure and public services, and that is contributing again to the rise in informal settlements, growing inequality and access to housing, affordability of housing, and basic urban services, and access to public transport and urban mobility options. We see, and again, this is across the region, so it's not necessarily specific to one individual country or a state or a province. But we see policy gaps and a lack of integration across ministries and with local bodies. So there may be some very strong urban policies at the national level that are not necessarily filtering down to implementation at all communities. There is often, and this is not just in this subregion, but across subregions, often very much attention between the national government and the capital cities or the primary cities, but those smaller communities where actually most of the demographic growth is occurring is still falling behind. So there's a widening infrastructure gap in the communities that are facing higher urbanization rates than those that you see in the capitals or primary cities. As a result, there's also, and contributing to that actually, is the limited financing that are going to those local governments from national authorities. So the intergovernmental transfers to fund policies and fund infrastructure is not sufficient to keep up with the growth in those smaller and growing communities. There is in those growing communities a lack of awareness and limited technical capacity that's also inhibiting strong urban planning mechanisms. And there is a lack then of infrastructure design that engages with stakeholders. So the lack of institutional capacity to plan and manage urban growth actually also limits the ability of various stakeholders to engage in robust planning processes and have a say in how future communities are designed and built. High disaster risks, and I think that was reflected very well in the SDG indicator for 11, exacerbated by climate change. We know that climate change disproportionately affects significantly urban populations. There is, as a result of the climate change consequences and the growing climate risks, expected to be considerable climate migration. So, for instance, there is an estimation that Dhaka and Karachi would receive an influx of more than 5 million people as a result specifically of climate migration. There are also, and this kind of limits the ability to make informed decisions. There are significant data deficits, especially at the local level, that look at population dynamics, where those informal settlements are, where the housing demand is, and where the outmigration implications may be in play. So the absence of strong data and experience sharing platforms across cities and the lack of vertical integration is really inhibiting strong urban planning regimes across the region. Next slide, please. We do see that there is some progress in SDG 11, and as it relates to some of the other SDGs, waste management systems and circular economy approaches are being mainstreamed across the subregion. We see more investments in recycling and circular economy that is often engaging with informal communities and waste pickers to looking at waste reduction, resource efficiency of communities as they are developing. We see launch of initiatives at the state or local level, including, for instance, the Atoll Mission for Rejuvenation and Urban Transformation, which is looking at modernizing infrastructure and enhancing urban resilience. Urban resilience being really a core of the need in this region based on the effects of disasters and repeated climate events. Developing and enforcing green building guidelines, the support of green building councils across this subregion and green building standards and regulations are actually encouraging sustainable construction and will have a long-term benefit, not just for energy, but also for potentially housing and green infrastructure. We see more air quality monitoring at the local level and more implementation of clean transport solutions contributing to better air quality in cities. So bus rapid transit, clean air projects, but especially the air quality monitoring and the collection of data is helping to inform those investments. We see the application of various tools, including UN Habitat's CityWise tool, which looks at waste characterization, means and opportunities for segregation at the urban level, and bringing those kind of tools into urban diagnostics and planning is a significant step forward. And we see promisingly integration of heritage and culture educations to really strengthen the awareness of sustainable cities and the unique characteristics of each of the cities across the region. Next slide. One of the key challenges that that remains, and it's not just in this subregion, but it's in all of the subregions of ESCAP, and really a challenge for SDG 11 across the globe, is the inconsistent reporting or inconsistent collection of local level data. So what you see on the left are the targets that could be assessed in 2023, and there are only 4 of them: public transport systems, urban air quality, disaster risk management policies, and resilience to disasters. In the 2024 assessment, there was only sufficient data to look at 3 of those targets, to make a finding on 3. So this goes really to the coordination between local authorities and national reporting entities responsible for the 2030 agenda and SDG reporting, and making sure that local communities have the capacities to collect that data and contribute to robust reporting on a consistent basis, year-to-year basis, so that it continues to increase the data availability in subsequent years' reporting. And that is where the enhancement of vertical integration and coordination between local authorities and national authorities will be especially important. Next slide, please. This just really looks at some of the overlap between SDG 11 and the other SDGs under review currently. So looking at safe drinking water and slum upgrades and adequate housing obviously has a connection. Looking at public transport systems, economic development, and building resilience to disasters, so 11 and 9, SDGs 11 and 9. Also looking at energy efficient design, as I mentioned, green buildings earlier, so slum upgrading, inclusive urbanization, incorporating into those interventions energy efficient design to both reduce energy consumption, but also to reduce costs for residents in those buildings. And then 11 and 17, which is always looking at partnerships to unlock possibilities and financial flows. Next slide. And finally, some potential recommendations for consideration in the deliberations or discussion later. Looking at plans for urban demographic changes, strengthening spatial planning and inclusive social planning. That includes looking at the issues of migration and informality in urban areas and making informed decisions on how to address and incorporate demographic shifts in traditional urban planning. Integrating national urban policies and to bolster multi-level governance. This is really going towards national and local coordination that both will result in potentially more robust investments, informed decisions at the local and the national level on how to invest in all communities that are facing demographic changes, but it will also enhance the data collection and robust reporting. Next, on multi-stakeholder engagement through those processes, including not just governments and local authorities, but civil society, private sector, youth, women, and migrants. And one tool to do so is the voluntary local review or the localization of SDGs. And then finally, again, looking at strengthening local level data, both for reporting, but also to make, again, those informed urban planning decisions. That's my quick overview, and Jawed, back to you as chair.
Thank you, Kurt. Excellent presentation and very informative. I hope that our panelists will pick up on the findings that you have presented. So it's certainly a wake-up call for us. I like to give the floor to Ms. Anam Shahid. She is the Urban Sector Planning and Management Service from the Urban Planning Management Unit, Government of Punjab. They are doing a lot of work in this area. So Anam, over to you.
First of all, thanks to all the organizers for inviting me as a panelist in the session. And Dr. Umar Masood, CEO Urban Unit, was supposed to be here, but he's busy in some meetings. So from his side, it's apologies. Yeah, that's a very informative presentation. And yes, the cities are basically systems of systems. So
Anam, just a moment. You have 4 minutes to for your intervention. And the first question that I want to put to you is that how can social inclusion, women, youth, and migrants, and multi-level governance be bolstered to support local actions on climate and sustainable urban development? So try to focus on that.
yeah. So that's the social inclusion is basically the bringing the people in, and the governance and multi-sectoral approach actually making the system so both they can bolster the overall sustainability and the climate change system for the cities as well as at the national level and international level. So government is actually emphasizing to receive the voices of the youth, of the general public in their projects, and the affordable housing is one of the project that in which we are taking the voice of the people to accommodate the to provide the equitable housing for all the people. And the other initiatives taken by the government of Punjab as well as the national government, just like youth empowerment, that's the green job initiatives, and the youth ecopreneurship. So these are all the programs. Through them, we are actually going to train our youth to induce in the businesses who are going to be climate friendly. If you are going to make a business from the waste, to segregate the waste and to use it as a fuel and use it as a product to make the climate footprints reduction towards the reduced side. So all these interventions, just like material recovery facility we made in Sahiwal, just to segregate the waste to make a compost. So these all are the climate initiatives, and women participation is very important in it. We are currently on a project making the first solid waste management strategy for Sahiwal division with in collaboration with IGES. So that's all the project. If you are we have to take the bottom up approach. If the people of that community is going to take the ownership of the project, then it's really going to be helpful to maintain that project, to run that project, because they are not only the beneficiaries, they are the system makers as well. So
Thank you.
government, yeah.
Next question I'd like to ask is, how can integrated urban planning be further promoted to address housing, transport, waste, water, and energy systems together?
Yeah, integrated planning is very important for any successful project. Usually, the government we have see that they are making projects and they are doing project in silos. Different projects are in place, but what the government is doing, we should have a strong system to integrate all the actors of the one project so that we can highlight or we can take their suggestion, their review to make that projects happen. That's where the integrated planning comes. If you are going to make a one road or you are going to make a one road project or the waste to energy project and the water supply project, then you have to integrate all the partners, because the land use planning is very important. That's going to give you a direction that this land is available for the industrial project, this land is available for the waste management side, this land is available to make any landfill site, and their type of land is available for the housing. So that's the integrated approach will lead us towards the right path. If we are not going to integrate different departments at the policy level while making any policy, any intervention in the system, then the voices are missed. And more importantly, that's the voices of all the stakeholders, that the general public is also important, because they are the beneficiaries. If if their voices are not going to be taken in account, then maybe your project is not going to progress efficiently, which we previously see in some projects, just like Iran-Pakistan project. That's the way. That's the gas was supposed to come from the Gwadar side and the Balochistan area, but their main concern was that how they are going to be benefited from that project. So we made several development, social inclusive programs to take their voices and make them as a beneficiary.
Thank you very much, Anam. I will like now to go to Barrister Arsalan Islam Sheikh, Mayor of Sakhar. Barrister Saab, good afternoon. And I would like you to benefit us from your views on how to fast track disaster risk reduction and climate adaptation with urban development strategies supported by early warning system and resilient infrastructure design. Over to you, Barrister Arsalan.
Bismillah Rahmanir Rahim. First of all, I would like to say salam and good afternoon to the members of Government of Pakistan, SCAP, SDPI, and all the respectable guests present here today. As I'm serving as mayor, so there is practical experience which I would like to share. But as far as the SDGs is concerned, I think it's been now more than 10 years that the Paris Pact, which the world did in 2015 to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. In this period of 10 years, the performance of South Asia and Southwest Asia country is not as good as it should have been. Instead, in secondary cities, it could be witnessed that there is a further amplification of urban challenges. Urban challenges to address, there's a requirement to financial support, there's a requirement for legislation, and there is a requirement for proper coordination. As the lady who was just presenting this before me, as she said about the integrated approach, for integrated approach, there has to be a certain authority who shall be responsible for all those functions, all those targets which need to be achieved. When there are different authorities, different mandate, it is not practically possible to have an integrated approach. By policies, again, we can say that through policies we can do some improvement and there can be an integration, but until and unless there isn't a legislative reforms, because legally the legislation take precedence over such policies. So those policies are not long term, and to achieve the sustainable development goals, I believe there is some needs for reforms in legislation or maybe in constitution for the roles of the local governments or whatever the authority and the legislators opt to legislate for achieving the sustainable development goals, identification of the short-term goals, medium-term goals, and long-term goals. That's how it's possible. And secondly, as Mr. Kurt Gervigan said, that there are fiscal transfers from federal government to local governments. That's happening on a very low scale, and practically the local governments are only maintaining the development projects. And once again, there's a big question mark. Then when there are two multiple agencies, one is responsible for executing and the other one is responsible for maintaining, there's always a blame game. What I have witnessed, that they say that they haven't executed it properly, they never designed it properly, and the other agency is blaming the maintaining agencies that you never properly maintain. So the funds, the public exchequer is subject to losses, waste of resources. However, as far as Sakhar is concerned, I would like to share some of the experiences. We approached the government of Sindh. We got a legislative reforms in terms of Sakhar Water and Sewerage Corporation, so we can run it on the sound commercial practices, and we can go for long-term sustainable projects. And furthermore, as far as Sakhar city is concerned, it's a very old city. Thousands of years ago, it was built by Muhammad bin Qasim through cutting the mountains. So there are so many gravity points, and whenever is a monsoon rain, the low gravity points are subject to urban flooding, which used to take normally 4 to 5 weeks to clear the rainwater. However, we have been able to address those issues by implementation of mechanism which we call rain water discharge emergent disposal stations, by implementing and executing installing the heavy machines, pumps, alternate generators, dedicated discharge lines. Same we have approached to the Asian Development Bank, through by which we will be soon initiating our RFP, in which there will be short-term goals, long-term goals, and mid-term goals. For climate, to address these carbon issues, there is a provision for afforestation, for the greenery, and for wastewater. 50% of wastewater now we are now treating. We constructed oxidation ponds from our own resources. And further, we will be going with Asian Development Bank. Likewise, we have identified a dedicated route for electric vehicles, because Sakhar has an advantage that it's surrounded with a river, and we can easily construct on piling a dedicated routes for e-vehicles, so that would reduce carbon emissions, because in Sakhar the temperature goes up to 50 degrees centigrade. But once again, for sustainability, we have to ensure inclusion of people. We just don't have to be like growing in terms of development. We also have to ensure that socioeconomic growth shall take parallel in place. So in this RFP, we have also incorporated in the TORs of consultant that they have to develop a policy by which there shall be a social progression, like what we have suggested, that to identify a raw material which is being produced here, so we can have a university, we can have a human skills related to that same raw material, and making this region area of specialization by developing trade zones, by developing dry ports. So this is how we are planning, but definitely it's a long-term process. But we have a roadmap. We have done legislative reforms for provision of clean drinking water. We have initiated a project under public-private partnership, and we are expecting that after 3 years, Sakraval will be the first city to providing each household clean drinking water. But again,
Thank
there are
you.
so many issues which need to be
Thank you
further.
very, very much. I think you have really highlighted the challenges as well as the way forward. So I am thankful to you, Barrister Arsalan, that you have really touched upon the hardcore issues, which by which we can really have an integrated approach, and what are the barriers to achieve that. Thank you very, very much for your very informative presentation. Now I like to give the floor to Mr. Sikandar Zishan, Punjab Housing and Director General, Punjab Housing and Town Planning Agency, Lahore. And I have my question to you, Sikandar Saab, that how can best practices, technology transfer, and capacity building in the area, such as green building, sustainable transport, and digital solutions, be strengthened or encouraged? Thank you.
Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Thank you very much. Good afternoon to everyone. I'm really grateful to the organizers for providing me the opportunity to be the part of this forum. This is very pertinent right now while we are talking about these issues, sustainable development and integrated approach and all these kind of things. When we are undergoing very, very difficult kind of challenges in terms of we have experienced floods very recently, very devastating floods, and that has exposed a lot of things in terms of our policies, in terms of our infrastructural strength, in terms of our way forward, how we are moving forward with our approach towards sustainable cities. So what you have particularly asked me, sir, about how to bring in the best practices, technology transfer and capacity building. To begin with, the most important thing is that in any and every kind of intervention that I have seen and experienced in my 15 years of career, that there is a lack of synergy. Every institution or department, whether at the governmental level, whether at the local level, whether at the international level, they are operating in silos, and we have not been able to give a unidirectional approach to any kind of development. One thing. Second thing, most of the initiatives and most of the interventions, they are either personality driven or they are government driven, or you can say they are short lived. We are never focusing, we do not have 30 years or 50 years or at least 10 years plan that which department or which intervention can take us from point one to point B. For instance, we all have been talking about urbanization, but till now, sitting in 2025, we do not have a urbanization policy for Pakistan, which is a big question, you know. And Pakistan is probably among the most rapidly urbanized countries in the world, not only in the region. Similarly, we are taking very positive steps while it comes to address the challenges posed by climate change, but these are still the baby steps. So, do we have the climate policy which is being triggered and implemented at the local level? One of the speakers talked about the DRR implementation strategies at the grassroots level. Do we have the DRR strategies implemented across Pakistan in all the cities, or at least in the most vulnerable cities when it comes to talk about the disaster exposed cities or the cities which are more vulnerable? So the answer is no. So why we are lacking behind, despite we get a lot of funding from a lot of organizations across the globe, we get a lot of projects when it comes to talk about building, solutions, but we are not taking forward to the sustainability part of it. We are not addressing it. Why? Because there is a huge gap in at least three tiers. Number one, policymakers. Number two, academia and researchers. And number three, practitioners. And another important thing when it comes to talk about implementing best practices, we do not localize solutions. Most of the times, we are always looking forward to copy paste solutions. We are always looking forward whatever has been done in any part of the world, we want to implement it. We do not try to internalize. We do not try to mold it according to the culture. Whether it is about, let's say, eradicating polio, whether it is about controlling population growth, whether it is making your cities sustainable, whatever it is, we have organizations at the governmental level or at the international level who are investing lots and lots of resources in terms of money, in terms of HR, in terms of conferences and all these kind of trainings and everything. But why we do not have results? The other day at some forum we were talking about gender equality and gender-based violence and rights of persons with disabilities. Why we are having these issues still in 2025? Because we are lacking integration. We are not going for the localized solutions. Another important thing which we need to do, you mentioned, sir, about the green technology, green buildings, about the urban transport. We have a transport network system in Lahore, but that is still not integrated. So again, we have to develop a culture of making these transitions. We have 5.2 million two-wheelers in Lahore. We have 13.5 million daily trips in Lahore. You think you can control smoke by these tiny mayas? You think you can make environmental changes by making these tiny mayas? So my concern or my submission to this forum is, number one, we have to work a lot on R&D. We have to create synergy and build bridges between educational institutions, research centers, practitioners, and policymakers. And finally, we have to internalize these things and develop a culture where we can tell people that we have to bring in all those things, and that is how we can save our cities and we can save our coming generations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sikandar Ansab, for your very pertinent points that you have raised, that how we can really achieve the target of integration, as well as the best practices that can overcome these challenges. Thank you very, very much. I would like now to give the floor to Dr. Kala Piaras. Dr. Kala, over to you. And my question to you, Dr. Kala, is that how can social inclusion of women, youth, and migrants and multi-level governance be bolstered to support local action on climate and sustainable urban development? So you have 4 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Much being said on making our cities sustainable. Let me start by saying urbanization is rapid. Urbanization being considered as the engine of growth, while inequality creating different epicenters at different frequencies in our region. So we talk about being inclusive, inclusivity for whom, why? Is it a kind of a general term which we say cannot be negotiated in our proposals? And being inclusive, being generalized is one of the main mistakes we make in our projects and in our work and what I have experienced in our region. Now, talking about inclusive cities and talking about marginalized, talking about people discriminated, are being treated under those generalized terms, which is for everybody. Would that create any inclusive society, or the benefits to be enjoyed by everybody equally? That's the question. And considering that as the main question, it is a matter of asking contextually, looking at a context, questioning who is marginalized, who would feel the impact of change differently? Who would feel not having clean water to drink, inadequate transportation services, and the risk of facing disaster? The impact being felt, that is why I said the epicenters of inequality being felt at different pockets, which may not be seen and addressed in our general, local, or whatever these broad plans. Now, working with communities and in the region, we have seen recognizing the issue specific or the context specific realities of communities, may it be women, children, youth, and people with disabilities, addressing these issues and giving them the space and the opportunity for these communities to get involved in making our cities sustainable has become practical. There are pockets, there are small interventions, such as rural women coming into due to very as in our first presentation it was mentioned about climate related migration, which is happening in our cities very much, and the learning of these women participatory approaches in planning, getting together, making their own maps and doing the power analysis and really feeling where the impact is felt short and long term. And then we have youth organizations, youth-led initiatives in our region where they have spoken about tried out innovation, climate change innovation, and coming up with solutions and voicing it out. Here also we see the examples in migrant communities. So it's a matter of institutionalization, and in terms of governments recognizing the importance of vertical and horizontal integration of community perspectives. Where I will take 1 minute to talk about VNR, voluntary national reviews were mentioned. But in voluntary national reviews, communities and these marginalized groups are there to validate. Reports are being made and very little opportunity, most of the time, being given for community to raise their concerns, raise their voices. And then it was also said, working through different models. So these are the models if you want to make cities really sustainable, not just resilience. It's a matter of listening to these marginalized communities and giving them the space to be partners of decision making as well as to become implementers.
Thank you very, very much, Dr. Kala. You really focused on the need for addressing the root causes or the challenges that really magnifies and the importance of addressing the marginalized communities' needs and approaches. Since this question itself is very critical to our society, I will like to give the floor to Ms. Shajia Khalid, Senior Associate Climate Finance, Pakistan, and put the same question to her to further highlight and deliberate on how can social inclusion, women, youth, migrants, and multi-level governance be bolstered to support local action on climate and sustainable urban development. Over to you, Ms. Shajia Khalid.
Thank you so much. First of all, I want to appreciate the Sustainable Development Policy Institute for inviting me to lend my voice to this platform. And to answer your question, I want to give a brief context as to what my work is. I am the climate finance lead at National Credit Guarantee Company. And what we do is issue de-risking instruments to climate action, gender empowerment projects, and SME, small and medium-sized enterprise financing in Pakistan. So my perspective will not just come from a youth angle, but also from the perspective of being a finance professional in this field. What we need to understand from a financial perspective about women, youth, and migrant communities is that they often lack social guarantees. An example of this is that a young person is very unlikely to have property that they can offer as collateral to access the kind of financing that would be required for them to build resilient housing, for them to build their own startups within climate technology, etc. And here I want to talk about how this is because of a historical disenfranchisement of marginalized communities like women, young people, and migrant communities in Pakistan. What is incredibly critical for us to implement are de-risking instruments. And here, not we are talking about credit guarantees where essentially institutions come in and provide a partial guarantee of the loan being repaid on behalf of those marginalized communities. Or we're talking about a social impact bond, similar to the skills impact bond launched by the Punjab government recently, where results-based financing frameworks come in, and it is ensured to international organizations that specific on-ground measures will be met before a payout for a project is received. We also spoke in the first presentation about how there is a need for national level financing to trickle down towards district level action and measurable impact outcomes. Here, I want to highlight how the Pakistan Climate Change Fund, which is under the Pakistan Climate Change Authority, based on the Act of 2017, could be structured in a way that it involves district level climate adaptation projects to be inculcated. And here I would really recommend people to look into the Constituency Development Fund in Zambia as a replicable case study in Pakistan. Lastly, I want to bring attention towards what is already being done by youth, women, and migrant communities in Pakistan to advance climate action. And the reason why this is important is because media attention is not being given to these issues, which is why governments are not aware that these are actions that they need to be supporting. And here I want to highlight 3 initiatives. Number 1, the SaaS Lene Do campaign being run by civil society organization in Islamabad, where they are pursuing public litigation against the CDA in Islamabad for inaction against smog. And this program is being run by a group of very young girls in Pakistan. Secondly, I want to highlight Concept Loop, which is a local startup based in Pakistan that is converting public waste into bricks that can be used for construction. And they have already partnered with multiple private sector entities in Pakistan. Thirdly, I want to highlight Modulus Tech. Modulus Tech is also a startup being run by a group of young people in Pakistan, where they are providing net zero housing that is very easily constructible in flood affected areas of Sindh. And the reason why I'm highlighting the 3 of these is because I hope that media present at this conference and the different government representatives present reach out to these initiatives and really understand what it is that civil society organizations, young people, women are already doing in Pakistan that can be highlighted on a government level. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sharia. You have really given a different perspective, or rather added a new perspective that how the guarantees and the social guarantees can lead to a better result. Now I like to give the floor to Dr. Paras Kharel, and I will appreciate Dr. Paras if you could let us know that what knowledge and data sharing platforms exist or can be built to address data deficits, support joint monitoring of SDG 11 indicators, and enable cross-country learning. Over to you, Dr. Paras. Thank you.
Thank you. So
You also have 4
Okay,
minutes,
yes.
and in 4 minutes, 2
Yeah.
questions.
So I'll try to answer this question by linking it to Nepal's experience, and let's see how it can be again related to South Asia. Now, first, with regard to data deficit is an issue with regard to overall SDGs in ESCAP region as well as in South Asia, but in particular with regard to SDG 11 as per a UN recent document. With regard to SDG 11 in this region, there is sufficient data for about 30% of the indicators, no data for 58.5%, and about 12% there is insufficient data. So data is a constraint, and we also saw data constraint issues in the presentation by Kurt. And urbanization is one of the recommended 8 areas for disaggregated data for SDGs, which shows its importance. Now, many of the indicators under SDG 11 are related to local level governments, whereas most of the data collected in Nepal and in many South Asian countries is at the national level by the National Statistics Office. Now, what one can do is begin with collection of relevant data as pilots in select municipalities or local level governments. And in the case of Nepal, some municipalities like metropolitan cities are very well resourced. What they lack is not so much about finance, but about the capacity. So capacity building could come first from National Statistics Organization, passing on their data collection knowledge that they have accumulated over several decades to local level governments. Just as national level statistics offices have over time received capacity building programs that have been effective, for example, from the World Bank and UN agencies to collect a range of data. And again, since Nepal has adopted a federal level structure over the last 10 years or so, there are several mechanisms for national and subnational government coordination, right? Various mechanisms. However, that mechanism, in that discussions in that mechanism, data issues, monitoring, etc., really come up. So that mechanism is yet to be fully utilized, for that purpose. Yeah.
Another question: what other actions would accelerate implementation of SDG 11 in the region?
So on again, in terms of data, there's a heterogeneity in terms of the frequency and quality of data collected by various statistical organizations, even in South Asia. If you compare household level surveys in Nepal or labor force surveys in Nepal with those in Sri Lanka and Pakistan or India, I can see that certain countries are much ahead, right? So even with regard to local level data collection efforts, there ought to be a lot of heterogeneity, and learning from each other would be a way out.
Thank you very, very much. So we come to close of the panel discussion, and the panelists. I am so thankful to you all. Now I like to open the floor for questions. Please be very precise in your question, and do let us know that to whom your question is directed. Thank you. Yes, please.
Thank you for the opportunity. My question is directed to the employees from the government of Punjab, sir and ma'am. Africa has launched a BIM report, which is building information modeling report, talks about how we can inculcate green practices in architecture and the building materials. I understand that Punjab, we forecast in 2030 to have 40.5 million more houses, and certainly we have to accommodate the people that will require this urban management. So what should the government collaborate or do to A, transition to BIMs in Pakistan, in Punjab, Lahore specifically, and B, how can we make the building materials more cost effective so that they can produce less carbon emissions or meet the goal of the net zero?
Thank you. Anam, over to you.
Yes. Actually, the government is focusing in this transition process, just like with taking the Green Building Code initiative and the other initiatives taken by the government of Punjab, as well as at the National Climate Change Policy under that program. So we are looking forward to see that the inclusivity of and the integration of all the stakeholders towards the green climate initiative, just like this, the affordable housing, they are taking the green initiative, they are taking that's green, that's the bricks, that's the generated from the waste. So they all the initiatives taken by the government of Punjab. Such that's I have only given you the one example. So that's all things are going towards the direction that we are going to reduce our carbon footprint, not only in the housing sector, as well as in the water and sanitation, as well as in the solid waste management, transportation sector. Just you can see the green buses at the roadside. So the main issue is like we have to integrate all the departments at the policy making side to make that policies and that's the invention sustainable. So Sir Zishan can add on?
Yeah, I will like now to give the floor to Dr. Zishan, Sikandar Zishan sir.
Ma'am, what's your good name? Ma'am Elishba, the thing is this, that government of Punjab particularly, if I talk about, they are taking some very serious measures in this regard, because urbanization particularly and climate change, and particularly you have seen since last many years, Lahore has been labeled as one of the most polluted cities, or probably the most polluted city in the world. So there is a very deep and serious realization among the government circles. So what we are currently doing is, urban unit is playing a very major role in it, that SDGs are developed for each districts. So now we are very clear about it, that we have to draw the line from green to brown areas where we can have these things. We are developing master plans for all the districts. So initially we were having a very rudimentary work. Local government was doing some job, DC offices were doing some job. So it was all scattered. So now we are bringing it, as everyone has mentioned here, about the data. We don't have the data available. So with this particular intervention, under one, we will have one registry, one repository, where we'll be exactly knowing that where future development should take place and how to regulate the development in line with the green practices, number one. Second important thing is, which you mentioned about the intervention taking place somewhere. We are also going to build a single building code. Right now, we have multiple development authorities working in Punjab, and each, for instance, LDA, Law Development Authority, has its own building code. Rawalpindi Development Authority has its own building code. But now what we are doing is that the government of Punjab is going to build a single document which will regulate the building code across the province. So that will also help a lot to. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So the basic purpose is this, that we can bring all these things in line with this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sir.
Another question?
So one thing I want to add, that's these are the initiatives which are taken by the government of Punjab at the side from the project, right? So we also developed the SDG monitoring section in the under the Planning and Development Board, and where we are regularly monitoring the progress of the SDGs at the provincial level. So that's all the interventions which through which we can reduce our carbon footprints, as well as move towards the greener development projects having the less carbon.
Thank you, Anam. Now, okay,
Hello.
please introduce yourself as
I
well.
am Shilpa. I'm from Nepal. Thank you so much for the insight and opportunity. As we were having this session on sustainable cities and communities, I was actually reflecting our experiences living in Kathmandu, which is the capital of Nepal. So Kathmandu is now ranked among one of the most polluted cities in South Asia. And I think Delhi and Dhaka are competing, and Kathmandu, three of the cities are competing with each other on air pollution. And also the floods and the landslides and the climate risk, they are impacting Nepal every year. A lot of people are losing their lives, and if not, they have been displaced from their households, and they're facing a lot of challenges. And when I reflect my experience, my own, experience of everyday commuting to work, I have to go through the poor road conditions and the everyday frustration of the rough, uneven roads and the poor road conditions, that's actually something we have been living every day, even in the urban city, even in the capital city. I know it's very hard to address all of these and to answer my question to this, that how we can live a dignified urban life in South Asia. It's not easy to answer, but these are the small things which we have been facing every day, is compelling us to move and migrate to abroad for in search of the cleaner air and better opportunities. So just something from any one of you to motivate young people to move ahead.
Thank you. Should you will respond? Okay. And then probably Dr. Kala can also add to that. Okay.
Let me share our experience in Sri Lanka. There are certain acts and regulations where you have to have community voice. Community committees being formed. It's not happening. That is why I said the signatories to validate, and that's not about making inclusive cities. So young people should push for these certain regulations, provisions in place in order to activate them, to get people really involved, practicing and getting their voices heard. Two, to get this, whatever the regulations, provisions available, to be improved and uplifted in a timely manner.
Thank you very much. And now over to Sikandar Saab.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. The problem is this, that we all of us in South Asia, we are facing this problem. The cities of Pakistan are facing this problem as well. The point is this, that our institutions or the departments at the governmental level, they are not performing at the optimum level, number one. They are incapacitated in terms of finances, in terms of technology, in terms of their capacity. This is what is lacking at the governmental level. What is lacking at the part of the people, they are not putting enough pressure on them. There is so we have a continuous litigation going on in Lahore High Court. Every Friday there is a hearing. Once I was serving in EPA, Environment Protection Agency, we've been summoned by the High Court every Friday that what we are doing to regulate these climate things and all that. So the point is this, as one of the speakers mentioned as well, that they are running some, campaign in Islamabad, for better air quality. We have to exert pressure on the government agencies, and there has to be a connect between civil society and, all these kind of firms which are working for the betterment of the people. And again, I will request through this forum that all the international donors and partners, if they start investing in the right place for the technology transfer, for the capacity building, once the institutions have developed the capacity to come up with the localized solutions. For instance, I happened to be in Kathmandu 3 years ago. So unfortunately, traffic was as messy as we see in some parts of, Pakistan. So I couldn't see, clean air. So I can clearly feel, I can relate to it, what you're saying. So the point is this, that we have to synergize.
I think it's engage more and more into such initiatives and interventions. Thank you very much. I think the question was responded. Now over to our next. Introduce yourself and then you put your question and direct it to whom you are.
माइक किसके पास? माइक
Is that because the climate is a provincial matter as well, not a federal, it's not one matter. So, but that urbanization policy at all provincial levels and the federal level, or any one province has this example over there?
Thank you very much, Ma'am Sakra. The thing is this, when it comes to talk about climate policy, so Punjab has a climate policy of its own, but we don't have the urbanization policy.
But let me I know that climate resilient urbanization policy. So it is still in the draft form. That's why probably people cannot see it. But the work is being done, and I am sure that like in Sindh, when in 2022 disasters, it's a very big platform which is now picking up and becoming a regional platform, because the efforts and the initiatives are so much focused to the climate resilient development and even urbanization. Our agency, UN Habitat, we developed climate resilient settlement policy or climate resilient settlement policy framework. So actually, we thought that until and unless we expand the canvas of intervention to the city level or to the settlement level, we are not going to go too far. We will incur huge damages to our infrastructure, huge damages to our housing sector and everything. So we are just losing. But then if we become conscious of the solutions or of the approach that we need to develop climate resilient or settlements or cities policies, that will really help us to stand and build more resilience. So the one of the basic focus of this is also how we can strengthen the resilience in our region or in our countries. So that is the way we must focus, particularly looking into all kind of challenges that each South and Southwest Asian countries do face and what can be really done. So your question was very important. So I thought that I give you some input from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm Paika from UN Habitat, and my question is with Dr. Kala. Dr. Kala, you talked about the community participation and their role in decision making. So, what are some practical approaches through which we can involve the community into the decision making? So you talked about the VNR and the validation through community. So, how could that be done in the developing countries?
Yeah, when you look at policy and the recommendations at the policy level for housing, allocating land and certain infrastructure facilities, there are recommendations where there should be partnership coming from the community level. And it is always at the end, you get people to come and to sign a document to say, and also in housing, in Sri Lanka, there is a clause that in every hamlet, in new housing, the low-income hamlets, there should be a community, women's community as well as for income generation. And so in terms of security, peace and security, which is about, different people from different ethnicities living in the same, but now these documents are just documents. So one major area is to raise awareness. And this is about rights. This is not just to become signatories. So when I said horizontal and lateral, vertical integration, policies, now in our setup at the national level, it goes to the local government level. Local government and development officers would go and get these people, telling them, you know, this is your house, you have to go. If you're not going, you are evicted and all that. That empowerment should come from the civil society side, as well as the awareness of, now my reality is we talk about SDGs at our national level. We have a data portal. Sri Lanka is progressing well with our data. But at the local level, government officers, they do not have that much of understanding of sustainable development goals. Forget about the targets, 6 targets. So those are the officers ignorant in terms of the value held by people, the right held by people to participate. So awareness raising at the level of the community as well as the government officers, and revisiting the policies and standards which are there, because in our country, we were a colony for such a long time, and we still have law, which, like different ordinances when it comes to land. And these are some of the major drawbacks if you really think of making inclusive cities and to recognize the marginalization and the vulnerabilities faced by different communities.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kala. Now, okay, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
After next is yours.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Daya Sagar I'm from Nepal. My direct question is goes to Mr. Kot, who is the presenter from UNESCAP here. There is one pertinent issue regarding the sustainable city. This is economic informality and the rising urban poverty, which is neglected. This issue has been often neglected, and the informal economies is growing, and that is dominating in the urban labor market, and the informal sector workers, they don't have social protection. These are these issues has been growing, and my question to the presenter, Kot, is that what is his observation? What UNESCAP has been observing, observing or realizing this issue? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the
question.
Yes, I heard the question. Can you hear me okay?
Okay. Fine. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I heard the question. I think it is very well accurately described about the issue of economic informality, urban poverty. I think what my impression would be is that many of these issues are actually intersecting around informality. Informal settlements, informal labor force, the informal economy. I think one of the opportunities is to identify where informality intersects with formality. And I could give one example, and that would be around waste. There are a number of informal waste associations that are identifying marketable resources. And there is the formal waste chain as well, where there are companies, identifying recycling and looking at development of products. And it really is, where is that intersection? Where can markets be created that allow the informal sector to actually intersect with the formal sector, both for economic opportunities, as well as to provide resources to the more formal sector. And again, waste is probably one area where that is important. The second example might be around housing. There are opportunities, especially when governments are developing social housing with private sector, to incorporate incentives that allow for a percentage of affordable housing and to look at the market levels for affordability. Access and affordability are kind of the key elements, obviously, of housing, and all of you know that much better than I in the subregion. But I think that it is really the access. Where are the access points in all of these economic sectors? Where does informality intersect with formality? Because that is where economic opportunities are. That's where opportunities for increasing income and addressing some of the urban poverty issues align. So
Thank you,
I'll
Kurt.
stop there.
I
Thank you.
think now you got the response that we have to find that how and where we can intervene to make this happen. Now, one more question. Yeah, Dr. Kumara, yes, please go ahead. Yeah, I just.
My question go to the Javed Saab because I heard there's a lot of discussion said this citizen participation for urban service housing, but I feel when we were students, we learned South Asia has the most remarkable experience in adapting this citizen participation and social housing, especially in Sri Lanka. We have 1980s, this Million Houses program, and all these very citizen entered process. And even Pakistan, we heard Orangi pilot projects. We learned a lot how this initiative, but now we passed 20, 30 years and is still talking how to integrate the citizen participation. So I know UN Habitat done a lot of work in this process. What do you think? What is the problem? We cannot do this.
I got your point, Dr. Kumara. And I will give you two dimensions of the challenge. One is very renowned, globally renowned lady architect, Yasmin Lari. She got the 8th global award from the King's Global Award. King Charles awarded her for her intervention, which is so much recognized, and it is really, it has done wonders through drawing a strength from the rural communities and building houses. It is bamboo and mud are the building materials, and she has it's rapidly spreading out in many parts of the flood affected areas of Sindh, and that is why she has been given the global award. So on one side, I think because it is very multi-dimensional challenges or the problems that we face. First is that our traditional housing method, like you said, that we did wonders in many of the, like Arkat Ramachandran, when he was the chief of UN Habitat, and 1 million housing program that went so well in Sri Lanka and in many parts of the country. And similarly, people, any intervention or initiative driven by the people or owned by the people really achieve more than what you can expect. But when it comes to the formal process of delivery of housing, because otherwise Punjab also is an ongoing project on affordable housing, but it is facing lot of hurdles, and it hasn't really achieved much significant at this point, till this point in time, but the effort is very much on. And from my own experience, When I was in the urban planner in the Ministry of Housing, we did produce one national housing policy. My secretary asked me that does it also apply to the rural housing, or will it also benefit to the rural housing? I said, sir, they do not qualify for the on the parameters and standards that are prescribed in the policy. So it addresses the challenges or opportunities for the urban housing. So similarly, it is rules and regulations has to be really modified, and we as appropriate building materials, like you put the question on the building materials. So a lot of research is going on, and we have tested tested compressed mud bricks. Compressed mud bricks can be used, that is what we think. And then fly ash is a good building material. So we are really doing the research, but the breakthrough hasn't happened except in the traditional housing, which Yasmin Lari is promoting, and it is really doing wonders. It is recognized globally, her interventions, and it is successful. But it does not apply then in the urban context. So we have to find a balance. We have to find we because that is why probably our this platform of the South and Southwest Asia is a kind of a global effort, broadening our vision and learning from the experiences across this region, that what works and what does not work. So we will find the way forward. Mikiko, thank you very much. Please go.
Thank you so much, and Javed Sab, thank you for moderating this. Mikiko from ESCAP. I'm just reflecting, listening and reflecting, right? Connecting kind of issues I've heard yesterday. I think issues that we know too. I think it's really interesting actually to hear from the mayor of Sakar, also the authorities in Punjab or Lahore, about the challenges from kind of urban level institutions, right? And there are several, challenges, which is, the almost impossibility of doing an integrated approach without the authority or agency or clarity and roles. Also the obviously financing. I mean, you talk to the central government, they say lack of financing. You go everywhere, you say lack of financing, even UN lack of financing. So that's common, thread. I don't know if there's any money that will just pop up, right? But I think, and also the issue of, participation, right? You said inclusion is too broad and general and not useful. I mean, I feel that, but at the same time, you can't list everybody either, right? I mean, who is marginalized? Who's going to raise their hand? And maybe everybody raises their hand, I don't know. I have a feeling, I mean, in this kind of disorder, which may be the norm everywhere, right? I mean, these development issues are not new, but I was wondering, like, okay, so in your schemes, be it in Sakar, be it in, your housing schemes or the initiatives you're taking in Punjab at the urban level, what are the modus operandis, the platforms that you have to actually maybe engage, to consult? And I also think that consultation also, there is a price to it, you can't consult everybody, obviously. Even those that we say should be consulted don't have the time to do it. I've seen many situations in many countries around the world where women, for instance, they need the permission of their father or husband or whatever to even come to a meeting, right? So you have all this imperfection. At the same time, I see these like this Gen Z generation, or Gen Z is generation, okay. somehow they use social media for lots of things, right? Collecting information. Now, I don't know if that data is always accurate, and I always wonder, what data do they use? But then somehow they influence the whole society through sometimes radical means, right? I don't know. Is there a way of somehow, again, there's no I don't think there's a one size fit all, and certainly some kind of prescription of how to do it, but certainly having spaces where you have that possibility, because certainly what you have is authority at the government, right? That's something that common citizens don't usually have, or even civil society organizations. They don't have these formal roles by definition. That's why they're civil society. So if you can create a space of consultation, multi-stakeholder, and again, not tackle all the issues, because you can talk about all the SDGs and then, you won't have enough time in an year, right? But, very focused issues that are of concern to certainly the government, but also the community. You can do quick consultations about certain civil society organizations. What are real issues? Focus on a few items, right? And say, okay, what's the problem? What's the solution? How can we work together, given we may not have the funding, but is there something that we could do? And then in that is, yes, the politicians, maybe there is an angle that is, the politician can also help, right? But I think somehow need to create a dynamic that allows that kind of, consultation and bottom-up initiative to happen, because it's certainly not going to come from the international organizations. We have limitations in what we can do in a country, right? We're not a sovereign state. There's a limitation to even the central government. They are, they have so many issues to deal with, right? So I don't know, but I think the city communities are really an important place, leverage point, because you have a geographical kind of boundary, and you also have certain, programs, even if it's maintenance in the city level. But I have a feeling that place can create that kind of dynamic. And again, that could be something we can learn. I mean, everybody else can learn in the country or even beyond. But I just want to challenge that a little bit.
Much, Mikiko. And I think it takes us to the conclusion of the panel discussion, because these are the key challenges that we need to find solutions. So like we always say, that cities are engine of growth and development. Cities are also the center of knowledge and innovation. So if we really do consider, but as I did mention in the beginning, that if the engine itself is defective, what would it deliver? So like creating opportunities, because these cities are the right place for bringing about a change in the thought, change in the process, change in the capturing the opportunities. So all these can happen in the cities if the city itself is made much more stronger, and the challenges that it face are timely and appropriately addressed. So the cities provide an opportunity. That is why people do migrate even from the countryside for the change in life, change in their economic status and all. So in fact, when things become too much messed up, that is why the SDG 11 is not able to, or not really delivering the results as fast as it should, because the inherent challenges and problems, because of economic depression, because of a lack of awareness, lack of proper platforms. Like we said, the pressure groups do play very important role. And like you did mention about I think one of our panelists did mention about some pressure groups that are in Islamabad and trying for a clean air solution. So there has to be environmental tribunals like Zishan Saab mentioned, that these are the platforms, and I, since my background is in the in the writing of the environmental legislation or participation in the environmental legislation, this environmental law that exists in Pakistan provides the right to every citizen to make voice and to stand and to take up any issue, and the environmental tribunals are in place in all the provinces, and they do hold regular public hearing platforms. So there are again, it is lack of knowledge, lack of information, lack of awareness that hold us. Does not lead us to benefit from those opportunities. So, like even in housing, Dr. Kumara said, in the urban context, Dr. Kumara, there could be one solution of cross subsidization. The people who are much richer, they should pay more, and they should offset the burden on the poor. And if they can offset the burden on the poor, so we play with the Dr. Paras is an economist. He can tell us that these opportunities, if exploited intelligently, many issues can be addressed by cross-subsidizing or drawing benefits from the opportunities that do exist, but then to offset the challenges for the poor people or people who cannot afford. So that way we can really address many challenges, many solutions. So cities can play very important role in the region if we all can overcome the challenges and the to harness the opportunities that it can provide. This is the conclusion from my side, that the panelists have focused on different dimensions of the challenges, and the probably the consensus that emerges is to connect the right dots, like one of our Mayor Sakhar did say that legislation do play very important role. So the inclusiveness or the inclusivity or the integrated approach cannot be achieved if it is not backed up by right legislation or by right provisions in the law. So we have to address multi-dimensional challenges in different contexts, so that we can optimize benefits and minimize the challenges. Thank you very much. If there is somebody of some of our panelists, yeah. So there is some question from online. I will like to give the floor to Sikandar Saab. I think you really raised the right issues, and you try to focus on those challenges. Over to you, Sikandar Saab. Arsalan Saab, thank you.
Thank you. Is something being asked from me, or sorry?
For the floor probably, or you want to add, because I was talking on your interventions and the points that you raised, that inclusivity or the integrated approach cannot be achieved without legislative provisions built in the to bridge the gap where it is not possible. Thank you.
I think this was the discussion of the panels was quite positive and a thoughtful process and a very learning experience. And we all know the problems and we all know some solutions. And I think we should move towards the solutions. and to sort out these issues, because in the discussion, some or the other way, the problems are same and the solutions were also the same. And Allah has made the human a logical mind. We have to go with the logic and achieve the targets.
I like to thank then our panelists and our delegates who are here for a very enriched discussion. And Mikiko, thank you to UNESCAP, and Kurt also, thank you to you for providing this opportunity. And I think this discussion in the panel was very useful. I am grateful to you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Dafis.